Hello, sewing people of the internet. In this video, I'm going to revisit, I guess this is kind of my second attempt at a backpack. I'm using air quotes for backpack because this is kind of a backpack sling bag, vertical duffel bag thing. I made this 9 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, I think, when I had no idea what I was doing, and now I kind of know sort of what I'm doing, although as you will see, I still have a lot to learn. But this pack was made out of regular household material, or materials from a regular fabric store, and recovered material from a duffel bag, and it's just, you know, it's not very good. I made a video about this bag that very few people watched, but I'll put a card to that video in the corner, and you can check that out if you want to learn more about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but things like, you know, these pockets are hand sewn on because I didn't think about putting pockets on it until later in the process. Same with the lid. There's a pocket on the inside that's hand sewn on. The lid looks like a toilet seat. It's just not very well made. However, I've used it quite a bit. For a while I carried it every day, and it then kind of got sidelined and became an occasional use bag. And even to this day, often on road trips I'll use it to carry running gear or, you know, mountain biking helmet and shoes, that kind of stuff, depending on what I'm going to do on that particular trip. And it works great. It's just, you know, it doesn't look that good, especially up close. So I decided to make a bag to more or less replace this one, although honestly I'll probably still end up using this when I need an extra bag. But let me show you what I came up with. Before I show you the new bag, I mentioned a video ago that I'm doing a 15-mile run in the Florida Keys in May. And as usual with a running event like this, there's a fundraiser associated with the run. The charity that this run is raising funds for is the Cancer Foundation of the Florida Keys. They provide all kinds of assistance to people living in the Florida Keys who are struggling with cancer. And, you know, the Keys are a beautiful tropical paradise, but it's also kind of a difficult and inconvenient place to live when you're going through something like that, because there's only one way in and out of the island chain, and a lot of the services you might need may be on the mainland and a considerable drive away, for example. There's just a lot less services and stuff. So, you know, there's a need for a lot of assistance, and not everyone who lives in the Keys is a billionaire. So it's a worthy cause. I'm trying to raise money for the cause. I've set a goal for myself to raise $2,000, and I'm really hoping that you can help me with that. I'm incredibly lucky. So many of you over the years have sent me a message or an email or something and said, hey, you know, I don't really want to buy a shirt or a sticker, but can I send you 20 bucks or can I, you know, buy you a beer or whatever? If you've ever had that thought, do this for me and we'll call it good. I would really appreciate it. I'd really like to raise as much money as we can. So I know there's a lot of worthy causes out there, but if you are able to contribute something, I'd really appreciate it. Link in the description below. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I completely forgot to say this. For those of you who already donated based on my plea on the last video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So here is the new bag I came up with. So this bag is essentially the same idea. It's a cylindrical bag, top loader, but this is an actual backpack, and I'll show you the back panel in a second, whereas the old one was I made just kind of a sling for it. I don't even know if sling packs were a thing when I made this, but it's just a single shoulder strap. I didn't do a full documentation of every step of building this, but let's walk through how this thing went together, and then I'll show you the details of the finished product. The main body of the pack is 3 layers. The inside layer is 400D nylon pack cloth, and there's a layer of thin foam, it's just packing foam, and the exterior is 1000D Cordura, and I just sewed those 3 layers together into this weird shape. I'll talk more about this back panel later. This time I made sure to sew all the accessories on before I closed the bag. You can ignore these tabs on the bottom. They were meant to hold the removable waist strap, but I put them on the wrong place and I ended up removing them. I don't think I would use a waist strap with this small of a pack anyway. I'm not sure what possessed me to make the bag in this shape, but I was trying to make it one piece with a separate back panel, and I miscalculated a little bit, so I just had a little excess I needed to cut off. Other than that, the shape of the bag actually worked out really well. After I sewed the side seams to the back panel, I sewed a second seam within the seam allowance just to provide some extra security. I created a floating liner out of more 400D nylon pack cloth. And I just stitched the liner into the seam allowances of the 3 bottom seams. I'm not going to give a lot of detail on how I made the lid because I'm not really happy with how it turned out. This was my first time making a lid of this style and shape, and I was really just riffing and figuring it out as I went. After figuring out all the pieces on paper, I cut out the pieces in fabric and sewed them together. And if this machine doesn't look familiar to you, it's new. Look for a video on this machine coming soon. I attached the lid to the mouth of the bag before attaching the extension collar drawstring closure. I also stitched the liner to the exterior all the way around the perimeter before attaching the drawstring closure. I made this extension collar / drawstring closure out of some leftover 1.6 ounce Hyper D that I used for my tent project. I wasn't sure how long I wanted to make the extension collar, so I just made it way too long, sewed it on, and then eyeballed it from there. Before stitching on the drawcord channel, I sewed a simple hem into the top of the extension collar. The draw cord channel is just a strip of the same fabric, and I used some 550 paracord as the draw cord. So as you can see, basically the bag is a big cylinder with kind of a triangular bottom. No real reason for that other than I thought it might be an interesting way to make it out of one piece. The back panel is the fun part. I somehow didn't get any footage of the making of this, but I sewed a spider web pattern into the back panel. This is pretty easy to do. I just sew a vertical line, a line across the middle, some diagonal lines, and just connect them with some curvy lines. This is actually pretty simple to do, kind of a cool look if you want something interesting on your back panel and you don't know how to draw a skull or something. The shoulder straps are bound shoulder straps. I've done a video on making shoulder straps, and pretty sure this is the pattern that I used. You're just going to have to look at this and kind of guess on your own. Or you can do what I did when I made this and measure an existing shoulder strap from a pack that you have or your friend has or whatever. But this has a little bit of a curved shape to it. Often I do just straight shoulder straps. If you check out the backpack tutorial I did, those are just straight. That would work fine too. The binding on the shoulder straps is mil-spec 4088 binding. I think that's the only place I used binding on this pack, and you could definitely make straps without using binding. All the other webbing is mil-spec 17337. This is all, I think, coyote brown. There might be a couple of different shades of brown in this thing, but this pack was mostly made up of things I just had laying around or left over from another project. The material on the face of the shoulder straps and that makes the pockets, I can't remember the name of it. I will put a link in the description, or the name of it, and a link to Ripstop By The Roll, which is where I got this from. I have an affiliate link with them, so if you buy through that link, I get a little kickback. It doesn't cost you any extra. But I like this material. This is my first time using it, and I'm going to definitely try to use it some more. And the back panel and the shoulder straps are this tan spacer mesh, and someone gave this to me. So on the front, there's a little mesh pocket, and to be quite honest with you, I just stuck this on here because I didn't have a good solution for where the bottle pocket seams were, and they just kind of looked unfinished, even though they're, you know, folded under and stuff. It just didn't look that great. So I put this on to cover that seam on each side. And I mean, you know, I've got some sunscreen in here. I'm sure I'll find some use for it. And this patch panel here, which we'll talk about in a second, that's open behind. So if I had something long, like an umbrella or hiking poles or something that I wanted to stick in there, that would, you know, give some extra support for that. One thing I carried over from the previous pack is where these compression straps sew in. It's easier to see it on the new one. The straps are not, the two ends of the strap aren't flat on top of each other. They're separated apart. And what that does is it makes it less thick to sew over. It's just easier for your sewing machine, and it makes less of a lump there. This patch panel really is mostly there to give me some place to sew the compression straps too. When I made this original pack, it has this black stripe, black fabric down the middle, and that seam is where I put the compression straps. And because of the way I made this out of one piece, I didn't really have any place to sew these without them just being on top of the fabric. I don't love how this looks, and I think it would have been better if I just created a seam there, maybe still had the Velcro and stuff. Maybe even still had this knot attached so that something could slip behind it, but underneath a seam here instead. But it's just bound all the way around. Looks fine. You're probably wondering about these patches. I was contacted by a viewer named Taj. I'm sorry, buddy, it's been a long time. It's probably a year and change ago, maybe even 2 years. It's been a while since he made these for me. But anyway, he had the ability to make patches and offered to make some for me. It was really cool of him. So he told me he made these on a Brother PE800. I don't know anything about embroidery machines, but he tells me that's kind of a hobby level machine, not like one of the $10,000 huge things. And they look really great. I love them. He made quite an assortment of patches for me. So many, in fact, that I probably need to get rid of at least one. So The first person to post in the comments the name of my black cat, I will send you one or maybe a couple of patches of my choice. If you're outside of the US, I'll send them to you, but it might take a while. So, and by the way, Taj and his wife Emily also make dog collars under the name Classy Canine Designs. You can check them out at classycaninedesigns.com. So if you have a dog and you want a fancy collar, you might want to check them out. So far, everything about the pack is pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with it, with the possible exception of maybe this could be a little cleaner. The lid is where things maybe kind of fell apart a little bit. I'm probably going to take this lid off and do something else with it. When this thing is really full, it looks great. I'm not sure, and if you know, I'm all ears because I've never made a pack with a lid like this before. But I'm not sure how to make it in a way that it doesn't look awful when it's trying to hold the pack closed when it's not fully loaded. And often I carry a pack that's not fully loaded. In any event, I made this kind of a complex shape, as you'll have seen in the construction part of it. But when it's full, it looks pretty good. I think I need to do something different with how the buckle attaches on the top so it doesn't like crease it down like that. But anyway, underneath the lid is just a standard drawstring closure. And then it's a top loading bag. If I'm honest, it could be a little bit bigger. I thought I was making it exactly the same size as this old bag. It's a little bit smaller diameter. Not a whole lot, but it works for the purpose that I designed it for. One other miscalculation I thought I'd point out in the interest of us all learning stuff. For some reason, I need to probably just like work this out and have a formula in mind, but I sort of haphazardly put things like these D-rings and sew down reinforcement points on the shoulder straps, and I bought some coyote brown attachment points for a sternum strap. And I don't know that I necessarily need one, but because of where I sewed the reinforcements and the D-rings on this strap, where the sternum strap would go is quite high on me, and it doesn't have a lot of room to adjust lower. If I'd put the D-rings maybe up higher and left more room, that would probably be a good idea. For some reason, when I'm putting a shoulder strap together, I think that the end of the shoulder strap goes somewhere down here, or I don't know why. I can't get it through my head that, you know, where they ride and how they look when they're laid out on a table. So I kind of messed that up. It's not bad. If I put a sternum strap on it, it would function. It's just maybe an inch or two higher than it should be. But the pack's really comfortable though. Actually, it rides nice and high. You know, I see people, man, I'm gonna rant a little bit, but I see people all the time with the packs hanging way down like this, and I guess maybe I'm old and that's what the cool kids do, but I think it looks ridiculous and it's not a functional way to carry. But I could definitely, you know, with a reasonable amount of weight, I could probably run pretty well with this. It's nice and close to the body and feels good. Anyway, that's my new pack. I'll probably post some kind of an update in 6 or 7 years when I get around to making a new lid for this. I may even like seam rip this off and sew some Velcro on and make it so that I can Velcro the lid on and then change lids if I don't get it right the second time. But yeah, this is a fun project, and if you know of some tips for how to improve the lid situation, I'm all ears. If you are able to contribute to the fundraiser for the Cancer Foundation of the Florida Keys, that would be super great. Again, there will be a link in the description. If you have questions or comments, post them in the comments section below. And if you like what I'm doing, clicking like always helps. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
roll.